Hello and welcome to the video lecture on blended learning. So from the previous video, you have watched or listened about the digital learning where blended learning is involved. Now, we are going to talk about it in detail as well as flipped learning next time on the next part of this video. Before we start, here are our objectives. With me, you will understand what blended learning is and its different types are. So, what blended learning is and what are its different types. Also, compare the pros and cons of blended learning. And lastly, consider the benefits of blended learning in education. So, to begin with, what is blended learning? From the picture itself, we could already have a hint or a definition about blended learning, wherein it involves people or your learners, teacher and learners, and technology. We simplified it as being a combination of two training environments. Those are the traditional face-to-face classroom training and high-tech e-learning. Also, at least in part, in a supervised brick-and-mortar location away from home. If we say brick-and-mortar location, that means the physical classroom or the school itself. In addition to that, the modes of activities along each student's learning path within a course or subject should be connected to provide an integrated learning experience. So, while the classroom offers an opportunity for role-playing with immediate face-to-face feedback, online learning, on the other hand, will offer personalized, self-paced learning components that lend themselves to interactive media such as skill-building games, videos, tutorials, quizzes, and social media components that are accessible from the learner's smartphone, tablet, or computer. In other words, in blended learning, both the modes of activities in a traditional and online classes should complement each other. All right, so what are the models or types of blended learning? We have 6 models, namely face-to-face, rotation, flexible or flex model, online lab model, self-blended, and online driver, which is somehow a form of the first one, face-to-face model, or they're somehow connected to each other. So first, we have the face-to-face model, which is the closest type to the normal classroom setting or the traditional classroom setting. In this model, not all learners are given the blended approach. Only some students who seem to struggle with the pace of teaching will be given this choice so they could catch up on their own speed. The next model is the rotation model, where students move to different stations in the classroom. Either they work online or having a face-to-face instruction with their teacher. A lot of elementary school use this since their students still needed supervision with this approach. Another model is the flexible or flex model, where most learning takes place through the online platform. but instructors or certified teachers are also on site to work with students on reading and writing, or to lead small group work and provide help as needed. In this model, most of the learning is self-guided, wherein students independently learn and practice new concepts in a digital environment. Next in line is the online lab model, where it is used to aid learners complete courses in dedicated online lab supervised by some people, but they're not certified teachers or instructors. In this model, students study online, but also need to go to the online lab for further instruction. Number 5 is the self-blend model. So this model gives students the opportunity to take classes beyond what is already offered at their school. Meaning, while learners will attend a traditional school, they also choose to supplement their learning through online courses offered remotely. So it's not necessarily connected to the courses they take in school. In order for this method of blended learning to be successful, students must be highly self-motivated. Self-blend is ideal for the student who wants to take additional courses and is determined to do it on his or her own. Lastly, we have the online driver, on which students work remotely and material is primarily delivered via an online platform. So this gives the learners flexibility and independency to manage their time and learning on their own. So those are our models of blended learning. They might be confusing, but they have their little differences in terms of administration and reasons of implementation. Let's move on to the reasons of employing blended learning. So, why blended learning? First, it is believed to increase students' interest. A blended learning environment allows learners to see concepts in real-world settings in a virtual environment. The context and a practical implementation of the concepts increase student interest and make learning more interesting and immersive. Online resources help to bring alive subjects such as mathematics and science that are either difficult or monotonous. And it also helps to improve information retention. Another reason is that it could increase focus. It is observed that the attention span of learners now is decreasing. So with plenty of online content available on smartphones, users are free to view whatever content they want as long as it holds their attention. When technology is integrated into lessons, learners are more likely to remain focused on a subject for longer periods than they would be with books and paper resources. Another reason to implement blended learning is because it involves learning through exploration and research. Students can reinforce the lessons taught in the classroom through exploration and research. Given the vast amount of online resources available, students can access them on their own to go deeper into the subject, as long as they have an access to the internet and other sources, they could do that. Basically, blended learning provides a degree of independency to the students, allowing them to take charge of their own learning and set their own learning goals. In addition, blended learning encourages learning by doing. Classroom teaching can sometimes be learning by rote, given that students are limited to the knowledge provided by the instructor, or teacher. However, in blended learning, teachers can motivate the students with projects that involves going beyond the confines of the classroom and learning by doing. Learning by doing meaning the learners are given chances to both learn mentally and physically. Moreover, it promotes learning anytime and anywhere. While students are introduced to a lesson in a classroom, using their smartphones and laptops or other platforms, they can learn anytime and anywhere to supplement classroom lessons. To add to those reasons, students involved in blended learning can also gain access to global resources. Again, learning is not restricted to the teachers, textbooks, and peer interactions. The learners can access global resources and materials that meet their level of knowledge and interest. And it also gives them more diverse sources of information and wider perspective. Another reason is self-paced learning. One of the greatest weaknesses of traditional classroom is that it does not address individual learner. Not all students have the same ability to grasp and retain concepts. We already know that. A blended approach ensures that students who lag in class can use online resources for greater clarity. Similarly, the quick learners can also progress to the next level. Therefore, blended learning helps to reduce stress, increase satisfaction, and information retention. 8. It allows logical information and student feedback. When using blended learning, online assessment resources can be accessed. It allows the instructors to rapidly analyze, review, and give feedback to students. Besides, they can use this data to tailor or make their teaching methods and feedback for each student while improving time efficiency. Adding to those, it also allows greater interaction with the instructors. Interaction with the instructor or the teacher is not limited within the classroom. Students can use resources such as emails, discussion boards, annotations, highlights, and chat rooms to stay connected with their teacher if they have questions. Lastly, it prepares students for the future. Blended learning offers a means to build skills for real-world settings, such as research skills, self-learning, self-engagement, help to develop a self-driving force, better decision-making, better sense of responsibility, and also computer literacy. Okay. All said, blended learning results in individual self-paced learning, more engaged students, better information and feedback on work, team learning and teaching, extended time with students, focus on deeper learning, individualized professional development plans, more opportunities for collaboration, and lastly, meaningful professional development. However, there are also disadvantages to this approach. Let's take a look at some of the drawbacks for blended learning. One is the technology challenge. The tech resources employed in blended learning need to be reliable, easy to use, and consistently accepted by all participants of the learning process. Otherwise, the initiative will most likely be gathering dust until some remote milestone is reached. The other issue is IT literacy, which may be a significant barrier for teachers rather than students. The availability of solid tech support and trainers is an absolute must. It's also important to nurture a blended learning community to justify the value of training technology. Old school supporters always have an ace up their sleeve, a long track record and verified methodology. Innovators really have to go the extra mile to convince the hesitant and reveal the benefits rather than disadvantages of blended learning. Second drawback is the pace of advancement. What primarily looks like an upside turns into a downside when you come to review specific learning scenarios. For example, the use of lecture recording may actually result in learners lagging behind on the course flow. Some students may choose to linger around for a while and then watch a bunch of video lectures or classes in one sitting, while others would rather make the interactive class part of their daily or weekly routine. Third challenge, negative impact on teachers. Overwork. It's hard to disagree that there's a significant amount of extra teachers' work involved in the primary stages when you're just starting to prepare your materials. A teacher adopting blended learning has to pick the right syllabus, the right ratio between face-to-face and online learning, and to the best of my knowledge, there's no universal recipe to it. Fourth challenge, negative impact on the students. The first thing that comes to mind when you think of the disadvantages of blended learning is the cognitive load. Due to the blended model, some teachers may start over-delivering content and educational activities. The new program may become a friend if made for individual student needs, but it could also become an enemy if applied in big amount, as is usually the case with traditional classroom learning when we do lectures. Lastly, the plagiarism and credibility problem. Naturally, once your class is officially internet friendly, it's hard to withstand the temptation of looking up things on the web or getting instant tips from fellow students. This may affect fair assessment and quality of work. Besides, the teacher needs to make learners aware of the disadvantages of online resources, such as bias, distortion, and misrepresentation of information. All right. Every learning methodology has its pros and cons. Disadvantages of blended learning exist, but they are not unsurpassable. The negative impact can be minimized or even channeled into productive activity if the instructor or teacher keeps an eye on student feedback. And they should also improve their technology skills and the delivery of quality courses. So you can ask your colleagues, classmates who may have already tried on blended learning so they can give you a few pointers. And of course, you need to measure your requirements against existing options as well. To end our lecture on blended learning, here are some things to remember. The traditional classroom setting provides the much-needed human interaction and more opportunities for communication and brainstorming with both mentor and peers when working towards a goal. Also, technology advancement cannot replace human interaction. Learners need basic guidance and a sense of context and direction to interpret online lessons, which only a human instructor can provide. Again, blended learning incorporates both the human component and the rich use of e-learning resources. Blended learning ensures that the learners can drive their own learning experience through engaging, contextual, and relevant learning resources available online. Right, so that's it for blended learning. See you on the next video on flipped learning. Bye for now.